Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting truly informed. We tackle the big topics, digging through all the history, the stories, the facts, and we bring you the core insights you need.
That's right.
Today, we're diving into the life of an absolute force of nature, a woman who basically redefined resilience, power for, half a century? The one and only queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner.
Yeah, and her career.
Yeah.
It's way more than just music sales, although, wow, those sales are incredible. We're talking over 100 million records estimated worldwide.
Staggering.
But it's really the story, isn't it? The narrative arc. It's this profound personal transformation. You trace it from this childhood of, real scarcity and feeling abandoned, all the way to global superstardom that was, honestly, forged in fire. Survival.
That's exactly what we want to do today. Our mission here is to give you a really solid, comprehensive understanding of Tina Turner's monumental journey. We'll go chronologically, starting from her very rural roots in Tennessee.
Right back to Nutbush.
Exactly. Then we'll look at those intense, volatile years with Ike Turner, where everything was so controlled. And then finally, that historic second act, the unstoppable solo artist, breaking records, defining what rock performance even is, and eventually finding, total peace.
Serenity. And the sources we've pulled together, they're really rich. They cover every single stage of her life, her development. You see the musical shifts clearly, R&B, soul, then boom, mainstream rock and pop.
Yeah.
But importantly, they also reveal the sheer personal strength it took, the fortitude needed to make that leap, especially after everything she'd been through. So we're not just listing hits today.
Yeah.
We're trying to understand the mechanics of how she survived, how she came back so incredibly strong. Okay, so let's get into this amazing story right from the very beginning.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So we start where Anna Mae Bullock started, Brownsville, Tennessee, near this tiny unincorporated community called Nutbush. She was born in 1939, and her childhood was, literally grounded in agriculture. She talked often about picking cotton with her family, and that connection is so deep it feels really fitting that now there's actually a stretch of Tennessee State Route 19, officially named the Tina Turner Highway. Her identity is literally part of the landscape there.
That connection to the land, it's a powerful symbol, isn't it, for those early years? Her father, Floyd Bullock, he worked as an overseer of sharecroppers there on Poindexter Farm. But her early emotional life, it was tough.
Very.
Her mother, Zelma, she left when Anna Mae was just 11. Now, Zelma was escaping an abusive marriage, seeking her own freedom, which you have to respect. But for young Anna Mae, the impact was feeling deeply unwanted. And that feeling, it really colored her emotional world for years during those really formative times.
It's a theme you see again and again in her early story, isn't it? This search for belonging, for identity. And speaking of identity, there's that fascinating detail about her ancestry, too.
Oh, yeah.
For most of her life, she believed she had some Native American heritage. But then later on, for that PBS series, African American Lives 2, they did a genealogical DNA test.
Right, I remember that.
And it really mapped out her African American family history in detail. It gave her a much clearer picture of her roots. It just shows, that process of self-discovery, understanding where she came from. It continued right alongside her rise to global fame.
Yeah, it's never really finished, is it? So the actual transformation, Anna Mae Bullock becoming Tina Turner, that starts when the family moves. They ended up in St. Louis and East St. Louis. She and her sister Aline started going out to the nightclubs there, which were really vibrant.
Right.
And the crucial moment, the one that changed everything, was at the Club Manhattan. That's where she first saw Ike Turner and his band, the Kings of Rhythm. And she was just captivated instantly. She described feeling almost in a trance watching him play, just drawn to that raw power, the energy of his music.
And the audition story. It's become legendary, partly because it was just so spontaneous, completely unplanned. It was 1956. During an intermission, the sources are always specific about it being an intermission. She just grabbed the microphone.
Just went for it.
Took it from the drummer, and started singing B.B. King's You Know I Love You. And her voice, described as this force of nature, it just blew Ike away. He immediately saw the raw talent, this explosive quality. And pretty soon, he made her a featured vocalist. But he also, meticulously coached her. Taught her vocal control, stage presence, everything she needed to be a professional.
Which brings us right up to 1960 and the actual invention of Tina Turner. This moment is so important because you see the dynamic shift right away. It goes from artistic collaboration, maybe mentorship, straight into control. Ike wrote this song, A Fool in Love.
Right.
He meant it for another singer, a guy named Art Lassiter. But Lassiter just didn't show up for the session, so Anna Mae stepped in and sang the lead vocal. The plan was just for it to be a demo track, nothing more.
But that demo,
Yeah.
it had something electrifying. When Juggy Murray, the president of Sue Records, heard it, he basically said, nope, this is the record. He was absolutely floored by her voice. He called it, what was the famous phrase? Screaming dirt.
Screaming dirt. Yeah. That raw, guttural power in her delivery. Murray insisted she had to be the star of the record.
And this is where Ike makes that move, that legal move that would hang over her for the next, almost 2 decades.
Exactly. He immediately renames her Tina. The story goes it was because it rhymed with Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But the really critical part, the insight here, is what he did next. He trademarked the name Tina Turner. This wasn't just picking a catchy stage name. It was a legal strategy, a weapon.
Wow.
His calculation was if she ever tried to leave him, he could just hire another singer, slack the name Tina Turner on her because he owned the trademark, and keep the act going, keep the brand without her.
That is just chillingly calculated.
Yeah.
It shows that right from the absolute beginning, the partnership was built on his need for control, ensuring her professional identity was something he legally possessed, not something she built or chose for herself. It just set the stage for everything that followed.
Yeah.
Years of control, servitude, where her own success was tangled up with his ownership of her name.
Yeah. And yet, despite that underlying toxicity, the initial result, musically and commercially, was huge. A Fool in Love, back in 1960, it shot up the charts.
Yeah.
Number 2 R&B, number 27 on the main Billboard Hot 100. That was significant crossover.
Huge for the time.
People were genuinely surprised. Critics called it the blackest record to ever creep into the white pop charts since maybe Ray Charles had broken through. It had that raw edge.
And that success led straight to forming the Ike and Tina Turner Review, which became this absolute touring machine, right? Complete with the Ikeettes backing her up.
Oh, relentless. Their schedule was brutal. Sources say sometimes 90 days straight on the road, crisscrossing the U.S. But that intensity built this incredible reputation. A live show that was pure musical spectacle. People started comparing them to the James Brown Review, which was the gold standard then.
That's high praise.
Absolutely. And it built this massive following, R&B fans, soul fans. It even gave them the power, purely based on ticket sales, to play desegregated venues in the South, which was a big deal back then.
Okay, so the Review is building this massive reputation, touring like crazy. Then they catch the ear of Phil Spector.
Yes, the legendary and controversial producer Phil Spector. The collaboration they did, River Deep Mountain High, in 1966, is just considered a masterpiece of 60s production. Spector was totally obsessed with Tina's voice, her power.
Right?
He saw the record built with his famous wall of sound technique, layering everything. He thought it was the best thing he'd ever done, his absolute peak work.
And the story of that record is so interesting because, you're right, Spector loved it. He kind of buried her raw R&B vocals under all these orchestral layers, creating this huge, sweeping sound. But it bombed in the U.S.
Totally bombed. Only hit number 88 on the Hot 100. It just confused everyone. America Radio didn't know what to do with it.
Why was that?
Well, it was kind of stuck in the middle. People felt it was maybe too white or orchestrated for traditional R&B radio, but too black or soulful for mainstream white pop radio at that specific moment. It just fell between the cracks.
But overseas?
Completely different story. Huge hit in the UK. Reached number 3 on the singles chart. And that success, specifically in the UK, was the key. It led directly to them getting booked to open for the Rolling Stones on their UK tour in 1966.
That's the connection.
That was the connection that opened up the whole rock world to them. A brand new audience.
And working with the Stones, that really shifted things, blurred the genre lines. By 1967, Tina achieves this major symbolic milestone. She's the first black artist and the first woman to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine.
Huge statement.
It really cemented their move towards rock audiences, pulling away from being strictly an R&B act. They even opened for the Stones again on their U.S. tour in 1969, which just boosted their visibility massively.
And that whole shift really peaks with their biggest crossover hit ever, their version of Creedence Clearwater Revival's Proud Mary in 1971.
Which wasn't just a cover, was it?
Oh, not at all. It was a total reinvention. They did that famous, slow, sultry intro, nice and easy, and then just exploded into this high-energy, ferocious rock performance. It was pure Tina.
And it worked. Number 4 on the Hot 100, sold over 1 million copies, got them a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group. That was massive.
Absolutely massive. And interestingly, around the same time, Tina's own songwriting started to really come through. In 1973, she wrote Nutbush City Limits.
Yes. That funky, powerful ode to her hometown.
Exactly. And it was a hit internationally. Went to #1 in Austria, got certified silver in the UK. It really showed she could create her own material, tell her own story, separate from Ike's compositions.
She also started showing her power on screen around then. In 1975, she was in the film version of The Who's rock opera, Tommy.
Ah, the Acid Queen.
The Acid Queen, critically acclaimed role. It was this really wild, manic performance. It tapped right into that raw, almost unhinged energy she had perfected on stage with the Revue. It gave her this separate identity, too. Put her image onto cinema screens worldwide.
But while all this professional success was peaking, the personal situation was just deteriorating terribly. Ike's cocaine addiction got much, much worse.
Yeah.
And the violence that came with it just escalated relentlessly. The sources describe him becoming totally unpredictable. And we really have to pause here because this context is vital. Back in 1968, years before she finally escaped, Tina had actually attempted suicide.
That's right. An overdose of Valium pills. It was a direct result of feeling trapped, terrorized by him.
It just shows the level of desperation she reached, feeling like extinguishing herself was the only way out of that daily reality, which makes her eventual survival, her escape, even more powerful. And it all hinges on that one famous night, July 1st, 1976.
Dallas, Texas.
They were traveling to Dallas for a gig. A violent fight broke out in the car, but this time, she fought back, hard.
And the escape itself.
Yeah.
It's just incredible in its darkness, its bravery. She waited until Ike fell asleep at the Statler Hilton Hotel in Dallas. Then she just ran across a freeway during traffic to get to a nearby Ramada Inn.
And the detail that always gets me, the sources are so specific. She escaped with exactly 36 cents and a mobile credit card.
36 cents. That's what freedom cost her at that moment.
That's incredible. She filed for divorce later that same month. It was finalized in 1978, but the financial fallout was immediate and devastating. She was suddenly legally responsible for all the gigs they'd had to cancel.
Right.
And maybe worst of all, there was a big IRS lien on their joint earnings from the Revue years. That meant years of crippling debt. It forced her onto food stamps for a time. She had to play tiny clubs, sometimes really demeaning gigs, just to try and pay off everything she owed.
But you look at what she prioritized in the divorce settlement. It tells you so much. The sources say she kept only two things, essentially.
What were they?
Her stage name, Tina Turner, which she fought for. And the songwriter royalties for the songs she had personally written, like Nutbush City Limits. That was it.
Wow.
Everything else, the recording studio, the publishing companies, the cars, and crucially, I kept the publishing royalties for all their shared compositions, including hers, that all went to him.
That decision, it says everything about who she was becoming, doesn't it? She chose her identity, her name, and her potential future as a creator over any immediate cash or assets, which, as you said, she probably would have had to sell anyway to pay the debts.
Exactly.
She essentially bought her freedom with financial ruin, but she held on to the one thing that mattered most. Her ability to perform under her name, the name she'd made famous, even if he'd trademarked it initially. She fought and won the right to keep it.
It's worth noting, too, those conflicting stories that Ike tried to push later on.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to undermine her narrative, claiming they were never legally married, which the sources confirmed didn't matter under California common law because they had been together so long.
Right, common law marriage.
And he even disputed her birth name, claiming it was Martha Nell Bullock, not Anna Mae. Why do you think the sources bother, including his later attempts to rewrite history? Is it just to show he never really let go of trying to control her story?
I think that's exactly it. It demonstrates the battle wasn't just legal or financial. It was about controlling the narrative. And her response was to draw this incredibly firm boundary. She eventually stated she forgave him, which is remarkable in itself.
Truly.
But she also made it absolutely clear, non-negotiable, that she would never, ever work with him again. That was her line in the sand. That was essential for her to move forward into her own future.
Okay, so she's free, but she's broke and facing this mountain of debt. The next phase, roughly 1976 to 1982, this was the real grind. People sometimes dismiss it as her nostalgia act, period.
Yeah, that's often how it's framed. She was playing smaller venues, hotel ballrooms, doing TV appearances to make ends meet. The absolute turning point, though, came in 1979 when she hired a new manager, an Australian executive named Roger Davies.
He was the key.
He was the visionary. He saw past the Nostalgia Act label. He saw the potential for her to become a major rock star, even as a divorced R&B singer in her 40s. He was crucial in modernizing her image, her sound.
And one of the first big moves was connecting her with that British production team, BEF.
Exactly. The British Electric Foundation, basically an offshoot of the synth-pop band Heaven 17. This was 1982. She recorded a cover with them, The Temptations' classic Ball of Confusion. And crucially, they made a video for it, which was a bit of a gamble then.
And that video ended up being really significant, didn't it, because of MTV?
Hugely significant. MTV was brand new, just starting out, and that Ball of Confusion video got played. That made Tina Turner one of the very first Black American artists, alongside Michael Jackson really, to get significant airtime on MTV.
Which was initially very rock-focused, resistant to R&B.
Very resistant. So getting that exposure put her right in front of this new, younger, rock-oriented audience. It was a critical first step.
But the real breakthrough, the moment that convinced Capitol Records to finally take a chance on her as a solo artist, that was the next cover she did with BEF, right?
Yes. Al Green's Let's Stay Together in 1983. They gave it this cool, modern synth-pop arrangement. It completely transformed the soul ballad, and it became the surprise international hit number 6 in the UK. And importantly for the US, it went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot Dance Club Songs chart.
Ah, the dance chart.
That was the signal. It showed her audience wasn't just the old R&B crowd anymore. She was connecting with the clubs, with a cutting-edge sound. That success was undeniable.
So that hit basically forced Capitol's hand.
Pretty much. They finally gave her the green light for a full solo album, but there was a catch, a big one. They gave her only 2 weeks to record the entire thing.
2 weeks? That's insane pressure.
Totally insane. But somehow, under that intense pressure, she delivered. The album, Private Dancer, released in 1984, just exploded. It launched her into a completely different stratosphere. Certified 5 times platinum in the U.S., sold something like 10 million copies worldwide. Just phenomenal.
And the Private Dancer era wasn't just about the music, was it? It was the whole image, the transformation.
Oh, absolutely. The look became iconic. That spiked kind of wild hair, the short leather skirts, fishnet stockings, the sheer power and confidence on stage. It all came together. That became the definitive Tina Turner image, the rock goddess. She was marketed as pure energy, resilience made flesh.
And the absolute centerpiece of that album, the song that defined the comeback, was What's Love Got to Do With It?
Yeah, ironically, a song she wasn't even sure about at first. She apparently thought it was a bit too pop, too soft rock for her.
Really?
Yeah. But thankfully she recorded it because it became the anthem, her anthem. It went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, incredibly. Her first and only number 1 on that main chart.
Only number 1. Wow.
Only number 1 on the Hot 100, yeah. And it won her the Grammy for Record of the Year. It was just a total cultural moment. It cemented her status, the comeback queen. Nobody could deny it.
The momentum from Private Dancer was just unbelievable. It kept spinning off hits like Better Be Good to Me, the title track, Private Dancer itself.
Which was written by Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, interestingly.
Right. And she was doing successful duets, too, like that one with David Bowie, Tonight. She was suddenly everywhere, just proving that age, race, past trauma, none of it was a barrier to absolute global dominance.
And that dominance spilled over from music back onto the big screen, which really reinforced her position as this major cultural icon. In 1985, she co-starred with Mel Gibson in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
As the amazing anti-entity.
Exactly. That chainmail dress, a whole look. And it wasn't just a cameo. It was a significant dramatic role. She was formidable, ruthless. She even won the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Actress for it.
And the film also gave us another massive hit single for her.
We Don't Need Another Hero, Thunderdome. Absolutely. That song was huge, showcased her powerful rock vocals perfectly, and it won her another Grammy, this time for Best Female Rock Vocal Performance. She was just moving effortlessly between worlds, rock star, movie star, total phenomenon.
But maybe the ultimate measure of her power, her essence, was always the live performance. Her energy on stage, which she'd honed over all those years in the review, it was just completely unparalleled.
Absolutely electric. And her solo tours were massive. The Break Every Rule World Tour in 1987-88, it didn't just sell out stadiums, it actually set a Guinness World Record.
For what?
Largest paying concert audience for a solo performer. She played to approximately 180,000 people at one show in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
180,000 people. That's mind-boggling. Just a sea of people there for her.
It really shows her global reach at that point. And this is where we need to kind of adjust the typical American view of her comeback. Yes, Private Dancer was huge in the States, but her truly massive, sustained commercial success was arguably even bigger and lasted longer in Europe.
Really? More than in the U.S.?
You could definitely argue that, especially in the late 80s and early 90s. Her 1989 album Foreign Affair, the one with the mega hit The Best, it went to #1 in like 8 different countries. It was her first #1 album ever in the UK.
Why do you think Europe embraced her so strongly, maybe even more than the U.S. at that point?
Well, the sources suggest a couple of things. Maybe Europe was quicker to embrace the whole package, the rock crossover, the visual spectacle without the rigid genre boxes that still kind of dictated U.S. radio formats.
Okay, that makes sense.
And also, she just toured relentlessly over there. The tour for Foreign Affair in 1989-1990 apparently drew nearly 4 million fans across Europe. She was just constantly present, constantly performing. She even said it herself in an interview around 1997. She said something like, "I'm as big as Madonna in Europe. I'm as big as the Rolling Stones."
Wow. That's a statement.
Yeah, so her peak in terms of just sheer touring power and consistent album sales was arguably weighted more towards Europe and the rest of the world during that specific era.
It's just amazing to think that the woman who ran away with 36 cents in 1976 was barely a decade later setting global concert records that rivaled the very band she used to open for. And speaking of closure, that moment in 1991 when Ike and Tina Turner were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together as a duo.
Right, and her response.
She didn't go. Famously declined to attend. Phil Spector accepted the award for them. It was such a powerful statement of distance, wasn't it? Refusing to participate in any kind of nostalgic reunion or rewriting of that painful history. Her identity was completely her own by then.
Absolutely. No longer defined by that partnership.
And her life story itself became this cultural touchstone. The 1993 movie What's Love got to do with it, based on her autobiography, Ike Tina. She even contributed to the soundtrack, re-recording some old hits and adding new ones like I Don't Want to Fight, which was another big success.
Yeah, and she kept going, recorded the James Bond theme Goldeneye in 1995, written by Bono and The Edge from U2, just stayed relevant.
And her final huge tour really capped off that decade of dominance, the 24/7 tour in 2000. Sources say it was the highest grossing tour of that entire year in North America.
Still pulling massive crowds in her 60s.
Incredible. And that's when she officially announced she was retiring from the big, extensive tours at the end of that run in Zurich.
A well-earned retirement from the road, you'd think.
You would think. But even retirement couldn't quite stop her from making chart history one last time. She did step back from major touring after the big 50th anniversary tour in 2009. But then, in 2020, she collaborated with Kygo, the Norwegian DJ and producer.
On a remix. Okay.
Yeah, a remix of What's Love Got to Do With It, and that remix charted.
Get out.
Seriously. And it made her the first artist ever, think about this, the first artist to have a top 40 hit single in the UK across 7 consecutive decades.
7 decades. From the 60s through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, into the 2020s.
Correct. 7 decades. That level of sustained relevance, spanning generations, it's just extraordinary. Almost a statistical impossibility. It says everything about her enduring appeal.
That's truly unbelievable. And the official recognition kept coming, too. Her Hall of Fame journey kind of mirrored her life, didn't it? Inducted with Ike in 91.
Which she skipped.
And then inducted again, fully on her own terms, as a solo artist in 2021. No longer half of a troubled duo, but recognized purely for her own monumental impact as the definitive female rock performer.
And she received those huge honors later in life, like the Kennedy Center honors in 2005. The tributes that night were apparently incredibly moving.
Yeah, the sources always mention President George W. Bush's comment about her legs being the most famous in show business.
Which is memorable, I guess.
It is, but it was really Oprah Winfrey's tribute that captured the deeper meaning, the emotional weight of Tina's story for so many people, especially women.
What did Oprah say?
She called her a heroine. She said something like, "We don't need another hero. We need more heroines like you, Tina. You make me proud to spell my name WOMAN." It beautifully shifted the focus from just the performer, the legs, the energy, to the profound inner strength, the spiritual victory she represented.
And that spiritual side, that was absolutely central to her resilience, wasn't it? Her conversion to Buddhism.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
She was raised Baptist. Her father was even a deacon. But in 1973, she was introduced to Nichiren Buddhism, and she converted. And this wasn't just a casual thing for her. It became the bedrock of her liberation. She specifically, repeatedly credited the practice of chanting the mantra Nam-myoho Shinshik. She said it gave her the mental clarity, the discipline, the spiritual strength she finally needed to make the break, to leave Ike. The whole Buddhist idea of taking responsibility for your own karma, transforming your present circumstances to change your future, that was her pathway out.
She found a tool for survival there.
Exactly. And she described it beautifully. She talked about how the chanting, the rhythm, the sound, it touches a place inside you, the highest place, she called it. And connecting with that place gave her the guidance, the knowing of what she needed to do. She even connected the physical act of chanting to singing. It was like a natural extension of her artistic soul.
But that inner strength was really put to the test later in life by some serious health problems.
Yeah, really serious challenges. She'd had high blood pressure since way back in 1978, but apparently it went largely untreated for many years, which led to severe kidney damage down the line. Then, in 2013, just weeks after she finally married her longtime partner, the German music executive Erwin Bach, she suffered a major stroke.
That's devastating timing.
Terrible timing.
Yeah.
And by 2017, the kidney failure was critical. Her quality of life had plummeted. And this is a really heavy detail. She was living in Switzerland by then, where assisted suicide is legal.
Right.
And she had actually signed up for it. She joined Exit International, one of the organizations there, because she genuinely felt she had no other options left. It shows just how close to the end she felt she was.
But the story takes one more incredible turn. An act of profound love.
Exactly. Her husband, Erwin Bach, volunteered. He donated one of his own kidneys for her. They had the transplant surgery in April 2017, and it was successful. It saved her life.
What an extraordinary gift. After everything she went through, finding that kind of love, that commitment, that sacrifice, it's incredibly poignant. Yeah. The man she finally found peace and stability with literally gave her more life.
It really is the ultimate testament to the peace she finally found. And that search for peace, for stability, really guided her final big life decisions, too. She'd moved to Küsnacht, Switzerland, right on Lake Zurich, way back in 1994.
Yeah, she lived there for decades.
Decades. Then, after marrying Erwin in 2013, she made one last, very deliberate break with her past. She formally renounced her United States citizenship.
She gave up her U.S. passport.
Completely. Stated she didn't feel strong ties to the U.S. anymore. She fully embraced Swiss citizenship and her life there.
So when she passed away peacefully at home in Küsnacht on May...
Isn't it? What a final salute. From royalty for the queen of rock and roll. The woman who escaped with 36 cents ended her life having earned 12 Grammys, including the Lifetime Achievement Award, holding the record for the most best female rock vocal performance, wins. Her legacy isn't just the music, is it? It's the ultimate story of reclaiming yourself, of defining yourself against all odds, the triumph of self-definition over external control.
Absolutely. So when we try to pull it all together, synthesize this incredible life,
Yeah.
the core lesson really does seem to be about control. First, fighting tooth and nail to regain it from Ike. Then, carefully protecting it.
Yeah.
She literally bought back her name, her identity, in that divorce in 1978. And then, think about that final act of business control. In 2021, selling her music rights, her catalog, to BMG for a reported $50 million. She literally monetized the legacy she had fought so hard to build and own.
It's perfectly framed, isn't it? Her whole life by two huge defining acts of departure, of separation. First, fleeing Ike in Dallas in '76 with pennies in her pocket, just desperate for physical survival, psychological survival.
Right, survival mode.
And then, decades later, completely transformed, famous, wealthy, deeply loved. At peace, she makes another separation, legally renouncing her American citizenship, choosing that quiet, serene life in Switzerland with Erwin.
So it's like these two departures. One born from total desperation, the other from deliberate choice, from achieved serenity. Maybe they tell us something profound, something about how necessary it sometimes is to shed the past, maybe even shed entire identities or nationalities, to fully become, well, to use her words, the best version of yourself.
It's a powerful thought. Sometimes transformation requires a radical break, a final departure from everything that once held you or defined you.
So here's something for you to think about after listening today. What parts of your own past, your own story, maybe even your own identity are you still carrying that perhaps you need to finally, definitively let go of to move forward?